All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving right into a really foundational idea in Buddhist practice. Why the very first step on the path involves holding back from strife, from killing, and from eating meat. Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to look at how negative feelings can spiral out of control. We'll talk about the practical steps for putting on the brakes. We'll get into the specific reasons for giving up meat, figure out the right mindset you need to actually succeed, and finally, see how all these little habits can literally shape your destiny. So, let's start with the downward spiral. How does a single feeling, something like hatred, kick off a chain reaction that can end up determining your entire future? The teaching here uses an analogy that's, well, it's surprisingly modern. It's basically about competitive gaming. It shows how just wanting to win can morph into enjoying the fight itself, a real thirst for dominance. It escalates from just beating a beginner to only finding joy in those really, really tough victories. And this is where it gets really fascinating. This slide actually maps that whole psychological journey to a specific karmic destination. It's a clear step-by-step chain reaction, right? Hatred grows into the act of killing, which then spirals into a genuine love of conflict, of strife itself. And this path, it leads directly to one place, rebirth in the Asura realm, a world that is literally defined by constant conflict. Okay, so if that's the path down, how in the world do you start climbing up? Well, the solution begins with 3 really basic, fundamental restraints. These are the essential first steps on that path upward. First, just stay away from arguments and quarrels. Second, you practice non-killing. And yeah, this extends even to insects if you can. Though the teaching is realistic, it acknowledges that being absolutely perfect in this world is, well, it's tough. The key point here, the absolute crux of it, is immediate self-awareness. And the advice is super practical. The moment you feel those emotions starting to bubble up, you recognize them instantly. And if you can, just physically get out of there. Remove yourself from the situation. That's your first line of defense. All right, now we get to what is, for a lot of people, the hardest one of the 3. Quitting meat. And to really get this, we need to take a quick look at a little bit of Buddhist history. You've probably heard that some Buddhists do eat meat, and this slide shows you exactly why there's a difference. The source material explains that the Hinayana approach, which allows meat under specific conditions, was actually an earlier teaching. It was seen as a kind of convenience method, something practical for monks who were begging for their food and basically had to accept whatever people gave them. So this timeline really shows you how the teaching evolved over the years. The Buddha started out with rules that were a bit more lenient, to make the path feel accessible to more people. But in his final years, he revealed what's considered the ultimate truth of the practice, a much stricter guideline that after he was gone, his disciples should completely stop eating meat. And this right here, this is the core reason. The habit of eating meat is seen as being fundamentally tied to the cycle of killing. So if you want to break free from samsara, that endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, this habit absolutely must be broken. So, knowing why is one thing. But how do you actually do it? How do you succeed in pulling up a habit that's so deeply rooted? Let's get into the mindset you need. It's an inner game. It's basically a 3-step mental process. First, you have to establish what's called the right view. That's a deep, genuine belief that making this change is absolutely necessary. Second, you take a formal vow, which really solidifies your intention. And third, you just persevere. You have to be consistent for a long, long time. The text suggests it takes about 7 years to truly pull this habit out from the roots of your consciousness. And here's where it gets wild. The real test of your success isn't what you do when you're awake. It's what happens in your subconscious. The source talks about these test dreams. In the first one, maybe after 3 years of practice, you're dreaming that you're starving. Someone offers you meat, and you eat it. Just like that. No hesitation. That means the habit is still strong. Fail. Okay, fast forward another 3 years. There's progress. In the same dream, the same scenario, this time you hesitate. You actually think about it for a second before you eat. Now, this is a good sign. It shows the attachment is getting weaker, but it's not gone yet. Still a fail. And then, finally, after more practice, you reach this incredible point. Even in a dream, even when you are starving, your commitment holds. You refuse the meat. You say you would rather starve to death than eat the flesh of another being. And that is success. It means the habit has been truly, completely uprooted from your mind. So, what's the big reward for all this intense inner work? Well, this is where our everyday habits connect directly to where we end up after death. Now, the core idea here is that while a few things might influence your rebirth, this teaching zeroes in on your habits. Why? Because our daily ingrained habits are the most direct, honest indicator of where we're headed. They're the one thing we have direct control over and can actively change. And this chart just lays it all out so clearly. It's like an ascending ladder. When you successfully overcome the habit of killing and eating meat, you can ascend to the first of the earth-dwelling heavens. And if you add good deeds and generosity on top of that, well, that can take you even higher to the next heaven up. So let's just do a quick recap. We've seen how strife starts small and spirals out of control. We've understood those 3 core restraints. We've dug into the real logic behind quitting meat. And we've seen how mastering these habits is believed to have a direct impact on our journey to higher realms. The biggest takeaway from all of this is that our ultimate destiny, it's not built on some grand heroic act we do one time. It's built on the small, consistent habits that we work on every single day. So the real question isn't just theoretical, it's personal. Which one are you going to start with?